What is up, guys? Welcome to another video. Now, we've got a lot to talk about. I'm going to start with the pregame notes. Happy birthday, Tom Thibodeau. It's his birthday today. Um, but there's a trade today. It was Pascal Siakam to the Indiana Pacers. And as this set the trade market, I think this sets the trade market on a kind of, higher value because, you're going to go and you're going to be like, okay, um, Pascal Siakam got traded for a rental got traded for three firsts, even though Indiana's looking to re-sign him, but he got traded for three firsts. Granted, they were protected, but what do you think Atlanta's gonna say about DeJounte Murray? Like probably don't want a lot because this guy 20-point scorer on a friendly contract, on a contract that, on a good contract. Um but you just gotta imagine how much they're gonna want for DeJounte Murray. Just like it kind of hurts the trade market for us, for the Knicks, because you're gonna have to get out and go get a Malcolm Brogdon, which looks way more realistic because of that trade and how that set the trade market. Um, because the trade market started out with OG Anunoby, not a very coveted wing for a very good piece that everybody knows in the NBA, executives know will turn to a star, and at best case scenario will turn to a superstar. Worst case scenario be like a high level starter and a young player, um, and RJ Barrett who just fills salary for OG Anunoby. And just a second, the trade market wasn't that high for a coveted wing, like a very good 3-and-D wing that fit the New York Knicks, that fit your team. But then you got the Marvin Bagley trade, which was nothing. That didn't really do anything to the trade market. But then you get this trade, and it's like four first and a high level role player in Bruce Brown. Like that is a big time kind of um, offer that kind of shakes up the trade market for a player like Dejounte. Like even like I don't even know, like maybe a play like a rental like DeMar DeRozan. Like, yo, like what would the Bulls want for DeMar? Like, I'm not the Knicks will get him, but like just think about it. Like, yo, the Bulls could end up with a first for DeMar. They could, um, if they play their cards right. But yeah, as I'm gonna say, the Rockets did. Let's get right into the game. My pregame thoughts: the Rockets great this offseason, getting players like Fred VanVleet, getting players like Jeff Green, getting players like Dylan Brooks who fill their roles. They're a lottery team last year, but they had money to spend. And they spent it, and I think they spent it smart. It was a lot of money, and it was like throwing contract at this good player, but it was smart. It benefited the young players. It was good two vets that benefit young players, and Dylan Brooks has shot his game up, even though didn't have a good game today. But he's shot his game up. Fred VanVleet has helped these young players, helped Şengün. Like that's just is perfect for a team like the Rockets to get those two players. Kind of leaves the blueprint that you can go out and you don't need to build the draft over and over and over again. Like if you have money, you can go out and get a player that's desperate for the bag. Like Fred VanVleet was desperate for the bag. Like Dylan Brooks was desperate for the bag. I don't think that you're gonna get a player that's not desperate for the bag if you're Detroit, because no one wants to go to Detroit unless you're desperate for the bag. But if you can get people desperate for the bag that fit your team, then I think that you will be fine, and it will jumpstart your rebuild, such retooling phase. Um, so who who's OG gonna guard? He guarded Fred. He was on LP. Like it was great to see him, guard all these players. Felt like we finally had that, you know that switchable small forward, big wing. It was great. And I said Şengün is one of the best young stars in the league. Big matchup with him and Hart. Two guys are kind of similar. Opera and Şengün's better, but and they're different because Ihart's better rim protector, better rebounder. But Şengün just does his. I don't even know Şengün's rebounding. I haven't really checked that out, but I think it's pretty good, but not Ihart's level. Um, But yeah, two good players. I mean, Ihart's kind of guy that's like, still like 25, 24. It's two like young big man going at it. Two solidified, good NBA, solid NBA player, big man. One guy is about to be an all star. I mean, he's not going to be an all star, but he's there. I mean, I don't think that if you make the all star game, you're the only all star. I think if you don't make the all star game, you can be an all star. Like Jalen Brunson last year was an all star. He didn't make the all star game. I think Şengün's an all star. He just won't make the all star game. It's just how things will shake up in the West because that's a very loaded, talented conference. Same with the East, but the West, you really look at it like Curry, Brown, like that's a big time talented conference that Şengün just won't be able to make the cut for the 12 roster spots. But he's still an all star in my opinion. In my book, he's an all star, and the way he's just played this year has been great. And then you look on the other side of the matchup, iHeart, he won't be an all star. He's not an all star at all, but he's a very solid backup center who has just gotten in the starting role and has elevated his game to a high level. So that's a good matchup. That's high quality. I think kind of good matchup. I don't think it's over the top. Like it's a very quality matchup. Um, but can Grimes get more playing time? I don't really think he did at all. I just don't. The thing is, I think it's just eventually Grimes gonna be on the move, and I will hate for it to be for someone like a Malcolm Brogdon because I know that the Blazers will ask for a player like Quentin Grimes because they're like, oh, we can because of the trade market, but you know, you know, if we look at here, Quentin Grimes played 16 minutes, so I don't even know. It was I mean, 16 minutes, he can hit some threes in those minutes, but it's just not enough for him to show his full capability. And that's sad because he will be able to show his full capability on his next team. But, I didn't put this in my notes, but will Josh Hart bounce back after a bad game? He did. I mean, it looked terrible for the first half, but he bounced back. He got 14 boards, 14 boards, not 10, 14 boards, 10 points, some crucial points to put the Rockets away. He didn't do it himself, but he helped very much to put the Rockets away. I needed Julius Randle bounce back. Gave it to me. Can Deuce convert his play to the bench? It's so sad because for the Knicks, the bench play is not good, and Deuce McBride is a good shot creator, not a decent shot creator that can be developed into a good slash very good shot creator. His playmaking chops just aren't there. Um, it's decent, like little below average for a point guard, but I think there's development there. But the Knicks just don't have time. Like the Knicks are in a prime position to go out and get a Brogdon because they just don't have time to develop Deuce McBride into that playmaker off the bench into that shot creator because he works most of his shots off ball. Um, and it was just he didn't have really decent. He didn't have like that type of game today because of just it was very hard for him to create off ball, for him to create on the ball. Uh, Rockets are eighth in the league in rebounding, and the Knicks, I think, dominated that category. Didn't really dominate, but I think they won that category. If I'm gonna look at it here, I think they won that category, by a healthy margin. Um, Total rebounds 51-38. If you want to look at Trying to look offensive rebounds 12-6 New York, defensive rebounds 39-32 New York, and then total rebounds 51-38 New York. So they won the rebounding battle by a healthy margin. That was great. I love that because when teams like these that have a great center in Şengün, you have to win the rebounding battle. You have to. And that I think it's team rebounding. Hart, like even Hart. Like I know you're looking at the center like a rebounder, but Isaiah Hartenstein did do great on the boards, but it's also everybody. I mean, Josh Hart had 14. He chipped in on the rebound. Like this is a number 8 team in rebounding. You have to all chip in. As good as the Knicks are in rebounding, you have to chip in and try to, it's going to be a team effort to keep these top 10 rebounding teams off the boards. And that's what the Knicks do. And that's what teams do to the Knicks. They try to chip in. Um, because the Knicks are like 1 or 2 in the league in rebounding, but you know, you have to chip in. And that's what the Knicks did. The Rockets are 4-14 on the road, which you kind of expect from a young team. 4-14 on the road. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they try to bring in veteran presence. Four and now it's gonna be 15 hours. Four and 15 on the road. I mean, if we look at like all the road, I think they played one in Philly. Like, I mean, the road games are pretty hard to be fair. Um, I mean, are they losing any crazy ones that would kind of they lost the Sixers, lost the Celtics, beat the uh on the road. They lost the Bulls. That raises an eye. But maybe you can get that one Kobe White night. But then you lost to the Heat on the road. But then you beat a team like the Bucks at home. So it's like, there's a big disparity. Because the Bucks are a good basketball team. As much as they struggle defensively, they're still a very good basketball team. And the Knicks kind of, lost to them because, you know, and it's a team 19 and 21 that just beat a team that's very over 500, very comfortably over 500 in a Bucks team. And then you go out and then yeah. Um, uh, so where's the away games? Um, you barely, so, okay. Um, you lose the Cavs in overtime away, and then you lose the Bucks. Okay. So what I'm seeing is these games on the road aren't that are very difficult. Um, and they've been 4-6 in the last 10, which let's see. Let's another indicator. What were their last 10? The last 10 was not of the Knicks. This was before the Knicks game. I wrote this down. So 76ers, Celtics. Oh, they beat the Pistons. They lost the Bulls. They lost like they're losing a quality team. So it's like you kind of figure out like your identity in the standings. So you figure that out as you play these heat type teams. Like you're at that kind of level, even though you're not in the same conference. Like you're at that kind of level, so you can feel yourself out. But yeah, 4-6. I mean, that could be a blessing in disguise, feeling yourself out as a team. I know they were hot and early in the year, but they're gonna cool down. But this team's still very good in my opinion. But they cooled down. But it's just like you got to feel yourself out with the rest of the league. I know the West very very jam packed, but you got to in talent, but you got to feel yourself out as a basketball team, and that's what the Rockets have done, being 4-6 in the last like 10. But they played some quality basketball teams. It's just about how much you want to fight, and they fought. I guess they fought today. I mean, you could say they fought today against a very good team in the East, of course, the New York Knicks. They fought very hard, but I mean, at the end of the day, I think it was the more mature New York Knicks team um just pulled the rope, in a tug of war, kind of an analogy. They kind of like pulled the rope their way just at the end. But yeah, Randle versus Brooks was a matchup that I was watching. Brooks is a very tenacious defender, he could take a lot of hits, and Randle, you know what he's gonna do. He's gonna make you feel it. You're gonna have to be some kind of ice bath as you play him. But yeah, he can absorb those hits. That's something that they pay him to do. I mean, Dylan Brooks got paid that money because he's an all defensive second team type player. That's what he was, I think, like a year ago. I don't know what he will do this year on the ballot for the defensive team, but he's a pretty damn good defender. Um, but I think that the Knicks needed to attack Şengün like a little bit earlier in the game because the guy's kind of like an iffy shot blocker. He can be good at sometimes, but it's just like he's very inconsistent as a young big would be, kind of blocking and kind of stealing off their paint. I mean, it's really easy to drive on that team inside. I mean, they're a good team defense team, but it's just Şengün has to feel himself out defensively. That's kind of his next development. Um, no harmony in the first quarter. It just felt like, thank God for the Knicks' sake that both teams couldn't find themselves. So it's not just the Knicks, but that was great. Um, what I mean, there's a time Brunson and Randle is in that. I don't know how much that's like, personnel that the Rockets put out there with not that good of a bench. It just was trash basketball, and I think Thibodeau lived with that because of knowing that you could sit your player like Brunson, even though it looked like he played a ton of minutes, but at least you sit him a little bit more. It feels like just a little tiny bit more, and you watch some trash basketball, but at least it's both sides are playing trash basketball, so you should live with that. But, yeah, I think it was just personnel. I mean, you always want to put in either Brunson or Randall. Um, but Donovan DiVincenzo made some plays that kind of sparked this Knicks team, and like think about the early second half or like the late first, second quarter, kind of spur the team. Did great. Um, Need to do a better job at finishing on the rim. I think sometimes the Knicks were just wide open; they just couldn't finish. It was just some of those times. But OG got going in the second half, really big to pulling away from this team was getting OG Anunoby going. Brunson playmaking is great. It's just not even just him getting assists on the stat sheet. It's just how he can just get players easier looks by just his gravity. I know we talk about with Curry, but like these are good players. Like you put a Shea, like their gravity is gonna give players like a J Dub easier shots, like a Chet easier shots, and just remove Shea, bring in Micic as the starting point guard. It's not gonna be the same kind of gravity. So I'm just putting that as an analogy as kind of the Thunder. But OG and Dante, their stunt and recover game is amazing. Where they stunt the basketball, then they recover. Like OG had one of those plays where he stunted, he recovered because he couldn't get it, and he stunted again hard at Jalen Green, got the ball, stole it. Great. That's one of the plays I look at. Dante had one. Those are great plays. OG switched on the Alperin Şengün, absolutely put him in locks. The player that we kind of traded for. That is why we. That's why Leon Rose, Thibodeau, and company pulled the trigger to get a player like OG Anunoby for his 1 through 5 defensive ability, and that you can confidently switch him on to players like that. Um, when Josh Hart is confident, he's a different player. He was definitely the driving force of what I got the Knicks to win because Josh Hart when he's confident, and not just confident in his shots, just pump fake, dribble, get to the paint. Like when he's confident like that, he's a different basketball player. So that's gonna do it. 2 30-point games from the top stars for the New York Knicks. The Rockets, fought through. It was a 2-point game at halftime, and then the Knicks pulled away. So that's gonna do it for your recap. See you guys tomorrow for the Wizards game. The almighty Wizards game. You know what? A good thing to think about is will Brunson play on the back to back? I wouldn't want him to, but he probably will. But it's just a question to ask. Yeah, the almighty Wizards. Do not fall for the trap game. We need every single win that the Knicks can get on this homestand. Have a nice day. Subscribe auto download feature. I just heard that was available on Spotify. I don't really know the nuances of Spotify. But yeah, that's gonna do it. Subscribe, like button, do whatever you got to do on Spotify to make sure you can hear my voice every single time I do a video slash podcast. See you guys. I think tomorrow for for the Knicks versus Wizards recap, where hopefully the Knicks will be coming out with the W, or I'll be very mad. Have a nice day.